Hello everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today's Tribute USA. We're so glad to have you here with us today. In this video, we're honoring the incredible legends who have recently left us. These remarkable individuals touched so many lives, and their legacies will live on forever. Before we begin, please support our channel by giving this video a thumbs up, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell so you don't miss our future tributes. Your support truly means a lot to us. Now, let's come together to celebrate and remember these unforgettable icons. Let's get started.
On Tuesday, July 22, 2025, the world of rock music fell into silence. Ozzy Osbourne, the iconic frontman of Black Sabbath and a defining force in the evolution of heavy metal, passed away at the age of 76. His family confirmed the heartbreaking news, sharing that Ozzy died peacefully, surrounded by love. With his departure, an era ends. A voice that once roared like thunder now rests in eternal stillness. John Michael Osbourne was born on December 3, 1948, in the industrial town of Aston, Birmingham, England, the son of a toolmaker and a factory worker. Ozzy grew up in working-class hardship, battling dyslexia and bullying, but within him burned an irreverent fire, a raw voice, and a dark charm that would one day shake the very foundations of music. In 1969, Ozzy joined forces with Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward to form Black Sabbath, a band that took the blues and turned it into something darker, heavier, and louder. Their self-titled debut album, released in 1970, was the birth cry of heavy metal. From Paranoid to War Pigs, Ozzy's eerie vocals and magnetic stage presence made him a legend. His voice wasn't just heard, it was felt, deep in the bones. After parting ways with Black Sabbath in 1979, Ozzy launched a solo career that would cement his mythic status. With albums like Blizzard of Oz, which gave the world Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley, he proved he could still captivate the masses. Collaborating with guitar virtuoso Randy Rhoads, Ozzy reinvented himself without losing the darkness that defined him. Yet his journey wasn't without chaos. Ozzy wrestled publicly with addiction, madness, and controversies, biting a bat on stage, slurring through interviews, and baring his life to the world. But beneath the spectacle was a man surviving trauma, craving love, and making the world just a little louder in the process. In the 2000s, a new generation discovered Ozzy through The Osbournes, the MTV reality show that revealed a tender, confused, foul-mouthed father who was just trying to live day by day. He was no longer just the Prince of Darkness. He was our Ozzy, vulnerable, hilarious, unfiltered, unforgettable. Even as Parkinson's disease slowed his steps in his final years, Ozzy never stopped singing. His 2020s albums, Ordinary, Man and Patient Number 9, were cries of defiance, filled with introspection and legacy. He knew his time was drawing near, but he faced it the way he lived, head on, with a scream and a smile. And now, as the final curtain falls, the silence feels unnatural. Ozzy Osbourne didn't just perform music, he created a movement, a myth, a madness that gave voice to generations of outsiders, rebels, and dreamers in leather jackets. From the smoky clubs of Birmingham to sold-out arenas across the globe, he gave us a sound to scream to, a rhythm to rage with, and a darkness that somehow made the light more real. So here's to you, Ozzy, the man who made metal a religion. The scream in the void, the bat-biting, cross-wearing, stage-diving soul of rock and roll. Rest well, Prince of Darkness. The train may be gone, but the echoes of All Aboard will never fade. On a quiet day in July 2025, the world of business lost one of its sharpest minds and most respected voices. Lawrence "Larry" Bosidi, the influential executive, mentor, and co-author of the groundbreaking bestseller Execution, The Discipline of Getting Things Done, has passed away at the age of 90. He died peacefully, surrounded by family, wisdom, and the quiet pride of a life lived with relentless purpose. Born on March 5, 1935, in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, Larry Bosidi's rise was built not on flash, but on focus. After earning a degree in economics from Colgate University, he joined General Electric in 1957, where his disciplined, results-driven leadership would soon catch the eye of GE legend Jack Welch. Over the next 3 decades, Larry rose through J's ranks, eventually serving as vice chairman. He led major divisions, including the company's prestigious GE Credit Corporation, sharpening his philosophy. Performance isn't about strategy alone, it's about execution. In 1991, Larry took on a new challenge as chairman and CEO of Allied Signal, a company in need of transformation. Under his leadership, Allied Signal became one of the best-performing industrial firms of the 1990s, known for operational excellence, cost, discipline, and a deeply accountable culture. But Allied Signal merged with Honeywell in 1999. Larry served as CEO of Honeywell International, guiding it through a turbulent time with steady hands and sharp vision. But perhaps his greatest impact came after he stepped away from the boardroom. In 2002, alongside Ram Karan, Larry Cothard Execution, The Discipline of Getting Things Done, a book that would redefine how business leaders think about strategy, alignment, and accountability. It wasn't filled with fluff or empty motivation. It was a manual for reality, for doing the hard work and asking the hard questions. The book became an instant classic. Taught in MBA programs, handed out in C-suites, and cited by entrepreneurs and executives across the globe. It reminded the world that leadership wasn't about lofty ideas, it was about delivering results. Larry Bosidi mentored generations of leaders. His style was direct, rigorous, and deeply human. He believed in setting clear goals, demanding excellence, and developing people to their full potential. Those who worked under him didn't just learn about business, they learned about integrity, clarity, and responsibility. Even in retirement, Larry remained active, offering insights on boards, speaking to future leaders, and writing with clarity and conviction. He was never one to chase trends. He focused on what worked and, more importantly, on who made it work. Now, as the final chapter closes, the business world pauses, not only to mourn, but to reflect. Rest in peace, Larry Bosidi. You didn't just talk about leadership, you embodied it. You showed us that success is not in the slogans, but in the systems. Not in the headlines, but in the habits. The legacy you built is more than financial, it is cultural, practical, and lasting. And while you may be gone, your wisdom echoes still on bookshelves, in boardrooms, and in every leader who dares to roll up their sleeves and do the real work. Execution was your message. Excellence was your method. Legacy is your result. The stage has gone quiet. The strings rest still. On Tuesday, July 23, 2025, the world lost one of its most enduring and iconic musicians, George Kimmans, legendary guitarist, songwriter, and co-founder of the Dutch rock band Golden Earring. He was 77 years old, known for his blazing riffs, unmistakable sound, and decades-long contribution to rock music. George passed away peacefully, surrounded by family, love, and the echoes of a lifetime spent in song. George Kimmans was born on March 11, 1948, in The Hague, Netherlands. A self-taught musician, George picked up the guitar as a teenager, drawn not by fame but by feeling. In 1961, at just 13 years old, he co-founded the band that would one day take the world by storm, Golden Earring. From local school gyms to international stages, George's sound would help define the spirit of Dutch rock and reach far beyond its borders. With Barry Hay, Rinus Gerritsen, and Cesar Zuderwijk, Golden Earring became a force that defied time, trends, and industry rules. In 1973, the band released the song that would become an eternal rock anthem, Radar Love. Written by George Kimmans and Barry Hay, the song exploded across Europe and the US, carving its place in rock history with George's thunderous guitar lines and unstoppable rhythm. It wasn't just a song, it was a drive, a pulse, a fire on wheels. Radar Love became the soundtrack for generations of road trips, rebellion, and restless hearts. But George Kimmans was never a man of ego. He was a craftsman, quietly pouring genius into every note. Beyond Radar Love, he wrote and performed dozens of hits, including Twilight Zone and When the Lady Smiles. His artistry helped Golden Earring maintain a rare feat: 6 decades of continuous success without falling into nostalgia or imitation. In 2021, George publicly revealed he had been diagnosed with ALS, a progressive neurodegenerative disease. True to his quiet strength, he faced the illness with dignity and grace, stepping back from performance but never from music. His final years were not defined by silence but by legacy. Fans across the globe paid tribute. Fellow musicians called him a guitar god. But George remained humble, always pointing back to the band, the music, and the joy of creating something timeless. Now, as we say goodbye, we honor more than a musician. We honor a man whose guitar strings wove together generations, whose melodies crossed borders, and whose heart beat inside every riff. George Kimmans was more than just the man behind Radar Love. He was the spirit of innovation, a quiet leader, and a legend who showed that European rock could stand proudly on any world stage. Rest in peace, George. May your solos echo forever in the halls of rock. You've left behind not just songs but a sound, a legacy, and a love we'll never forget. On a quiet day in Asheville, North Carolina, the final curtain fell for one of television's most enduring stars, Eileen Fulton. The legendary actress who brought drama, glamour, and grit to daytime television for over 5 decades, has died. At the age of 91, she passed away peacefully in her hometown, surrounded by family and love, leaving behind a legacy that forever shaped the world of soap operas. Born Margaret Elizabeth McClarty on September 13, 1933. In Asheville, Eileen was a natural performer from a young age. With dreams bigger than her southern hometown, she trained in acting and opera before heading to New York City, where Broadway lights and studio cameras waited to capture her talent. In 1960, Eileen took on a role that would define her career, redefine daytime television. She stepped into the shoes of Lisa Miller Hughes on the long-running CBS soap, As the World Turns. What started as a small part soon evolved into one of the most iconic and complex characters in television history. Lisa was bold, calculating, glamorous, and unapologetically powerful. She was a character audiences loved to hate, and Eileen played her with such brilliance that she quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Before Eileen, soap heroines were passive, sweet, and silent. But with her portrayal of Lisa, she gave the genre its first true vixen, a woman who could scheme, love, and fight with equal fire. It was groundbreaking, and audiences were hooked. Eileen portrayed Lisa on As the World Turns for nearly 50 years, from 1960 until the show's final episode in 2010. In doing so, she became one of the longest-running television actors in a single role, earning her place in the pantheon of television royalty. Beyond the soap, Eileen was a trained singer and a formidable stage actress. She performed cabaret, recorded music, and graced the theater with her signature elegance and wit. But no matter where she was, Lisa Miller was never far behind, but her influence stretched beyond the screen. Eileen paved the way for stronger, more layered female characters on television. She showed that a woman didn't have to be perfect to be unforgettable, she just had to be real. And while Lisa was dramatic and fiery, Eileen herself was grounded, generous, and deeply grateful to her fans. She often said that it was the audience's love that kept her going all those years. In her final years, Eileen returned to her hometown of Asheville, where she lived quietly, surrounded by the beauty of the Blue Ridge Mountains and the memories of a life well lived and well performed. Rest well, Eileen. You weren't just the face of daytime, you were its beating heart. You gave voice to boldness, beauty, and imperfection. You turned a role into a revolution. And as the world turns without you, your light still shines in every dramatic pause, every fiery monologue, and every woman who dares to speak her truth on screen. Goodbye, Lisa. Goodbye, Eileen. The world of daytime will never forget you. The curtain has closed on a voice that once defined an era. Connie Francis, the girl who sang heartbreak into every note, has died at the age of based on her birth in 1937. She would be 87 in 2025. Her death marks the end of a golden chapter in American pop music, a chapter written in longing, love, and the unmistakable power of her voice. She passed peacefully, surrounded by loved ones, as music from another time echoed softly in the background. And just like that, a voice that once filled jukeboxes, dance halls, and teenage hearts across America fell silent. Born Concetta Rosa Maria Francanero on December 12, 1937, in Newark, New Jersey, Connie was a first-generation Italian. Raised in a family of dreamers, she began singing as a child, first in local talent shows, then on television and radio. Her father, George Francanero, was her earliest supporters, trick-driven and unwavering in his belief that his daughter was destined for greatness, and he was right. In 1958, after several failed singles, Connie recorded Who's Sorry Now, a 1920s standard transformed by her pure, emotional delivery. It became an overnight sensation, rising to the top of the charts and launching her into superstardom. From there, the hits kept coming. Where the Boys Are a Wistful, anthem for every teenager in love. Everybody's Somebody's Fool, her first one hit on the Billboard Hot 100. My Heart Has a Mind of Its Own, Lipstick on Your Collar, Stupid Cupid, each one a time capsule of youth and yearning. Connie Francis wasn't just a pop star. She was a trailblazer, the first woman to reach #1 on the Billboard pop chart, a multilingual performer who recorded in over 15 languages, and a global icon whose songs reached hearts from Brooklyn to Berlin. But behind the glamour was deep, personal pain. In 1974, Connie survived a brutal assault in a hotel room, an event that shattered her emotionally and derailed her career. She faced years of depression, hospitalization, and silence. But, like in her songs, she fought her way back, writing books, recording again, and speaking out about trauma and mental health long before it was common. Connie was a survivor in every sense, of heartbreak, of fame, of unimaginable loss. But through it all, the voice endured, rich, haunting, and filled with every emotion too deep for words. Even in her final years, Connie remained a beloved figure, cherished by fans of every generation, honored by the music industry, and remembered as the voice of a million memories. Rest now, Connie Francis. You taught us that tears could be beautiful, that longing could be strength, and that even broken hearts could sing. Yours was not just a voice, it was a mirror to the soul. And though you are gone, your songs still live in the hearts of all who've ever whispered along to Where the Boys Are. Goodbye, Connie. The world may not cry like it used to, but tonight, it surely will. A heartbreaking silence has fallen over the world of television and music. Malcolm Jamal Warner, the celebrated actor, director, musician, and poet, has died at the age of 54, following a tragic drowning accident while on a family trip in Costa Rica. The incident occurred at Playa Grande in Cahuta, where Warner and another man were swept away by a powerful current, though both were pulled ashore by bystanders and treated immediately by the Costa Rican Red Cross. Warner could not be revived, he was pronounced dead at the scene. The news sent shockwaves through the entertainment community, a sudden end to a life defined by wisdom, talent, and an enduring grace both on and off the screen. Born on August 18, 1970, in Jersey City, New Jersey, Malcolm Jamal Warner was named after civil rights leader Malcolm X and jazz pianist Ahmad Jamal. Assigned from the beginning that his life would blend depth, artistry, and purpose. Raised by his mother, Pamela, who managed his career and encouraged his early passion for the arts, Malcolm stepped into the spotlight before most kids finished middle school. He became a household name at just 14 years old. Cast as Theo Huxtable on the groundbreaking sitcom The Cosby Show, week after week, Malcolm brought warmth, humor, and relatability to the role of the awkward, lovable teenage son. His portrayal earned him Emmy nominations and made Theo one of the most beloved characters in TV history. But Warner didn't stop there. Unlike many child stars, he evolved with quiet dignity and unwavering intention. In the 1990s, he starred alongside Eddie Griffin in the sitcom Malcolm and Eddie, showcasing his comedic range and stepping behind the camera as both director and producer. In the 2010s, he delivered some of his most profound performances in dramas like The People, O.J. Simpson, Suits, and The Resident, where he played Dr. A.J. O's complex cardiothoracic surgeon whose strength and humanity became a cornerstone of the series. Beyond acting, Warner was a spoken-word artist and accomplished musician, releasing several albums blending funk, soul, and jazz with powerful poetry. His words cut deep, exploring fatherhood, black identity, love, and resilience with unmatched clarity. Through it all, Malcolm remained grounded, never seeking fame, only truth. He became a mentor, a father, a husband, and a man who carried himself with authenticity in an industry that too often rewards artifice. His tragic passing in Costa Rica is not just a loss to entertainment, it is a loss to culture, creativity, and quiet leadership. He lived his life with humility and purpose, and though his voice has been stilled, his impact will echo for generations. Rest in peace, Malcolm Jamal Warner. You were the rhythm in our living rooms, the wisdom behind the mic, the heartbeat in every character you played. You didn't shout, you spoke. You didn't chase, you created. And in doing so, you gave the world more than entertainment. You gave us pieces of yourself. As the tide now carries you home, may your soul find the calm you gave to so many. Gone too soon, remembered forever. In a quiet house in Boulder, Colorado, surrounded by love and the soft echo of verse, Andrea Gibson took their final breath. The acclaimed spoken-word poet and activist passed away at the age of 49, leaving behind not just a body of work, but a world forever changed by their words. They died as they
Try
lived
calling
bravely,
it hibernation.
honestly, and surrounded by tenderness.
Imagine the
Born on
darkness
August
is a
13th,
cave in which you will be
1974, in
nurtured
Calais,
by
Maine,
doing
Andrea came into the world
absolutely
with a
nothing.
fire in their
Well,
chest,
when I
and a
Hibernating.
voice
wrote
that
this,
would one day stir millions. They studied political science at
And in
St.
April
Joseph's
of last
College,
year,
but
I
it was
had
the
the
mic,
honor
not
of
the
visiting
podium, that
Andrea
became
at
their
her home.
revolution.
I think
In
that
the
we
early
were
2000s,
all
Andrea moved to Boulder,
born
where their poetic journey blossomed.
astonished.
With a
We
trembling
were
vulnerability
never,
and
ever
fierce
meant to
conviction,
grow out of
they
our
exploded
awe.
onto the spoken word scene. Their performances were not just readings, they were exorcisms of pain, battles of truth, and celebrations of survival. Andrea was among the first poets to bring queer, non-binary, and gender-expansive identity into the mainstream poetry spotlight. With works like Pole Dancing to Gospel Hymns, The Madness Vase, Take Me With You, and Lord of the Butterflies, they carved space where others saw none and filled it with light, rage, grace, and fierce love. Their voice was a balm for the broken, a trumpet for justice, and a mirror for all of us who dared to feel deeply. Gibson wrote openly about queerness, mental illness, chronic pain, terminal illness, and the aching beauty of life. When diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2021, Andrea didn't retreat. They transformed. Their poetry became more urgent, more luminous, more deeply rooted in love than ever before. Living with terminal illness, they once wrote, taught me how to live with terminal beauty. They inspired countless people, queer kids, survivors, empaths, lovers, and activists to speak, to write, to breathe through the chaos. Their poems weren't safe, but they were true. And in that truth, they built a home for so many who never felt they belonged. Andrea Gibson didn't just write poetry, they embodied it. They gave words to what so many of us couldn't name. And in naming it, they healed us. Their final days were spent in peace, embraced by friends, family, and their beloved Boulder community. They left behind more than books and recordings. They left behind a movement, a constellation of hearts awakened by the power of language. Rest now, Andrea. The mic is quiet. The stage is bare. But your voice still echoes in bedrooms and buses, in journals and protests, in first kisses and final prayers. You taught us how to live louder. You taught us how to love harder. You taught us how to feel, not be afraid of it. And in every moment we do, you live on. On a quiet morning in July 2025, the final verse was written. Alan Bergman, one of the most cherished and celebrated lyricists in American music history, passed away at the age of 99. His words, timeless, tender, and deeply human, were the soul behind some of the greatest songs ever sung. He died peacefully, just as he lived, surrounded by the music he helped create, and the love that made every lyric true. Born on September 11, 1925, in Brooklyn, New York, Allen grew up immersed in music, language, and a quiet curiosity about how feelings could be captured in just a few simple lines. That gift, the ability to make the complex feel effortless, would become his signature. In the late 1950s, fate led him to a partnership that would define his life and change American music forever. He married Marilyn Katza, brilliant lyricist. In her own right, and together they became one of the most powerful creative duos in the industry. The names Allen and Marilyn Bergman became synonymous with elegance, emotion, and enduring artistry. Their lyrics weren't just poetry, they were portraits of love, loss, hope, and longing. Their most iconic work came in collaboration with musical legends like Barbra Streisand, Neil Diamond, Michelle Legrand, and Marvin Hamlisch. Together, they penned The Unforgettable, The Way We Were, a ballad that stopped time, capturing memory, heartbreak, and nostalgia in just a few perfect stanzas. You Don't Bring Me Flowers, a duet soaked in quiet sorrow, telling a story of drifting love and unspoken regret. The score for Yentl, an emotional journey woven with words that soared. Papa, Can You Hear Me, and The Way He Makes Me Feel became spiritual anthems for anyone who ever felt different or dreamt of more. Over the decades, the Bergmans were nominated for 16 Academy Awards, won 3 Oscars, 4 Emmys, 2 Golden Globes, and the Johnny Mercer Award from the Songwriters Hall of Fame. But their greatest achievement wasn't the trophies. It was the emotional resonance of their work. Alan Bergman didn't just write lyrics, he captured the in-between moments. The silent pauses between a sigh and a song, the ache of remembrance, the sparkle of first love. His pen was dipped not in ink, but in humanity. Even after Marilyn's passing in 2022, Alan remained active, reflective, and creatively sharp. He often spoke of her with reverence, calling their partnership his life's greatest song. Together, they gave voice to feelings we all share, yet struggled to express. And now, as the final chord fades, we are left with a treasury of music that will live on forever. Alan Bergman was not just a lyricist. He was a translator of the soul, a man who gave us words when we had none, a quiet architect of unforgettable emotion. Rest now, Alan, reunited with Marilyn. May your spirits write new verses among the stars. And to the rest of us, whenever a melody moves you, whenever a lyric feels like it was written just for your heart, that is where Alan lives on.